Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Happy Thursday to you and your family. Obviously, taking a look at Bitcoin here, helping understand what's going on with this crazy spike up and drop down. Of course, it's kind of expected considering how overextended it was going into those meetings yesterday, but same accord, what's the deal here? What's going to happen next? And hopefully kind of identify some support and resistance levels. And if you're new to the channel, just know I love to teach people to trade. Hopefully you can learn something here today. If you're not currently a community member, consider joining CryptoCash.tech as a website, link in the description below, where you can register to become part of my trading academy, community, and signal group. Really awesome experience. Keep in mind, first of the year, we are planning to adjust the rates. So if you want to lock that in before the end of the year, great call. Absolutely consider doing that. And when it comes to, just kind of our members here, we have some awesome traders in there as well. So a lot of things, we're all kind of banding together and working together. So keep up the great work, you guys. You're just awesome, and you should know that, right? Keep it up. Fantastic work. The very last thing, of course, is basically Bitget. You want to make sure to use this exchange if at all possible here, because it's one of the best exchanges you could use. And honestly, we have a $10,000 price pool monthly that you can use, and it essentially allows for you to benefit from it by basically taking place in profit and loss ratio or trading volume. All you got to do is just trade normally and you'll qualify. It's really cool little benefit there. So we have that once every month. So check that out in your own time. If you use the link in the description below, you'll always be eligible for that. So here's the thing with Bitcoin. Not great, not good today, of course, as we already know. But yesterday and the day before were interesting, to say the least. So I was expecting the price to not shoot up as high as it had. It broke through that resistance level here at about 17,300 and went all the way up to 18,400 and then it's crashing back down now. So just keep in mind, traditional markets are struggling, to say the least. I mean, NASDAQ is just plummeting, for lack of better terms, and S&P is also gapped down. So had a bad pre-market, and today so far down by almost 3%. That's a lot. So for Bitcoin to be maintaining roughly 2.5% for the losses, it's not too bad considering. So it does speak to Bitcoin's strength in the overall sense of things, but also tells us that, hey, we might see further downside because the traditional markets are kind of getting hammered, and there's a good chance that they'll continue that for a little while. Again, I'll analyze that separately, of course, but generally speaking, they're not looking great. And same thing with Bitcoin here. And let's go ahead and talk about that. So when it comes to the things that are important, we always want to look at moving averages and RSI on larger time frames. Those help us understand the big picture and kind of realize kind of what the overall sentiment is. Okay, so right now, even though we had a nice 2.5 days of trading, CPI data came out positively, and we only had a 0.5% yesterday for inflation. That was kind of expected, kind of baked in. The problem is that we overinflated the price action just before all that occurred, and now the realism is coming into place. Okay, so again, I opened a short day before yesterday. I think we should keep it open. I feel like we are going to hit our target still, just based on the way that the market is moving right now. But here's the thing. We got a support level at right around 17,300. We need to be mindful of that. If we close below that, that'd be a pretty significant indication that we're going to see further downside, that is, right? But for now, we got to kind of treat it like a support level, and there's a good chance it might hold. Okay, so I wouldn't say buy the dip at 17.3, but that wouldn't be a terrible place to consider a long position if other things are present. So let's go ahead and take a look at those other things. First of all, we were over 50 on the RSI. That reaffirms that support level at 17,300. We want to go ahead and maintain that and continue that. So under that premise here that is a support level, we should be able to hold and bounce off 17.3. So essentially a long position from 17.3 should be realistic, or more potential for upside than downside based on this sentiment. Once again, there's other factors that needs to be considered. Okay, so again, MACD here is starting to lose its momentum a little bit. So that's one thing. It's not great, but it's also not terrible. The thing I'm focused on, I would say more so, is the moving averages here. We see the 50-day SMA, as I mentioned before, going to work as a strong resistance level. It absolutely has held in very strong. So again, candle wick up, all well and good, but that moving average holding the price action in place. It's held price action in place many times before. In other words, we kind of look back here at the 50. There was a couple of times when the price action came above, but also furthermore got rejected. So it took literally 2.5 to 3 weeks for the price to get above that level. And then, it did well until FTX, of course. But generally speaking, when you're above the 50-day SMA, that's when you want to consider long positions and or bullish type of situations. We're not there yet, okay? So keep that in mind. The first test of a moving average isn't an official test. Like if you'd taken a long position yesterday at this point, you're doing it wrong because it's not confirmed, right? Confirmation comes with days of maturity in that level, that area. And what the area that we're looking for is a closure significant closure above 17,800 and maintaining this price point for some time and then potentially legging up. We shouldn't expect the price just to shoot to the moon, as most other YouTubers would say, because of the fact that we're not there yet. Okay, you need a lot of confirmation. The market is in a terrible shape right now in the overall sense of things. So, having the price go up as well as it did yesterday was a very big red flag. So good for my community members for shorting a lot of those opportunities, because it was the right call. Again, right now here, the best call is to pretty much wait for confirmation. So what we're waiting for is a closure above 17.3 or below 17.3 to kind of give us that reiteration. What'll probably happen is the price will end up working itself into a wedge here and potentially breaking up or down. Okay, so again, there's a good chance we're going to see the 50-day SMA continue to hold as a resistance, and that's something we need to be mindful of, because once again, maintaining above the 20 is one thing, but below the 50 is another. Okay, so we're not bullish whatsoever. And if you thought that just by 2 days of green days, you got a lot to learn. And that's okay. It's easy to want to kind of buy into it, right? But if we take a look at this here, look at TD sequential, look at how overextended this is. We came up to a 9 here and then shot even further up. That's greedy right there. And that's exactly what the market makers do. They'll buy the price, get it going higher, keep you thinking that it's really positive, and then of course comes crashing back down once the realism sets in. Okay, realisticness of the market is that we are very not good. The market is not good. How else do you want to describe it? Insert your own keywords here. Simply put, 50% or 0.5% rather, inflation is never a great thing. And even though that's better than 0.75 from most previous occurrences, it's still moving up regardless. We're still inflating, and that is what's causing this to come down, and of course dollar index to come up. Okay, so again, just some interesting things the way that it's moving, but this overextension tells us that we have roughly about, at the very least, another 12 to 24 hours of bearish divergence to the downside. So we should see, I would say, another full day of continuation lower, possibly even further, but we want to see how this support level here holds. Is 17.3 going to hold? That's the interesting thing. So we've lost 50 on the RSI, which isn't super important. Again, the smaller time frames, the RSI becomes less relevant, but it is still relevant nonetheless. So being underneath that is not great. That tells us that we are absolutely bearish in the midterm. And to me, the midterm, again, is a 4-hour time frame, kind of telling us this transitionary time frame is identifying that we have bearish sentiment, where the daily hasn't fully taken that into effect yet. Because again, we're still above some support levels, and we're ascending positively on the daily still, right? We're still making higher lows. I think that's going to come to an end, and we're probably likely more so to going to see some further downside. Very strong MACD divergence, and this is of course a good swing signal here to take a short position on the way down, and this is essentially what it's telling us. So we have pretty much everything. Let's see, go ahead and see the moving averages here, telling us that we want to come down. We do have some, consolation here with the 200 being right there at that 17,850 range. Coincidentally, our first profit target for our short position. And of course, those things kind of holding in place is not the most impactful. Okay, again, RSI, MACD, those things are a little stronger on the 4-hour time frame, whereas the moving averages are not necessarily as relevant. So keep in mind, even though we are trending with the 50-day SMA, it's not necessarily going to hold just because that's what you see, right? In other words, that's why we want to look at everything else. We can see we're overextended, we got further downside potential. We lose this level at 17.3, it's a great chance we'll see 16.9 and or 16.6 is a close approximate as the next legs down. Okay, so I think it's very realistic for us to see that. Is it going to happen? Hard to say specifically, but right now, certainly looking like that is the case. Taking a look at the 1 hour, though, what we want to look at here quickly is TD sequential as well, so we have any overexhausted state. And one thing I want to kind of highlight first of all is just so you understand, this is another reason why you want to short a point like this, because first of all, we have 1.9 TD sequential, comes up, consolidates, jumps up to another, basically a 9. You're at an 8, that's the same thing as a 9. And then once more, consolidation, and up to another 9. So we got 3 greedy scenarios here, 1, 2, 3, followed by a significant drop-off. Anytime you see TD sequential occur 3 times on the 1 hour, relatively in a row, in other words, the last 72 hours we've seen a lot of bullish continuation, you're going to see a following red day because of that. That's exactly why there's a 3 white soldiers pattern that occurs when you have 3 strong green candles followed by a 4th red candle. It's that supply and demand scenario that occurs, right? RSI gets extremely overextended. We can see it here on the 4 hour. You can see how high this went for too long. It's not going to sustain itself for much longer. Cryptocurrency can do that sometimes, but it's just less common, okay? So generally speaking, you see that kind of overextension on the 4 hour, specifically on the RSI, and then you equate that to a bunch of 9s on TD sequential on the hourly. it's just kind of screaming red flags that it wants to come back down. So it's exactly the main reason why I left my short position open yesterday. So got to keep this in mind as community members. I know a lot of you were kind of like getting stressed and just kind of having trouble with holding that position open, because I get it. It's contrary to a lot of other positions we take in the past. But you got to recognize that if you're using the right position sizing and working within your risk tolerance, that shouldn't affect you. Okay, so keep in mind, if you keep adding to your position to avoid liquidation, that can be a really nasty road. You shouldn't be doing that in the first place if you're using low position size. Okay, lower your leverage, lower your position size. That's all I recommend, because it's really a helpful tool to be able to survive these markets here. That being said, we are making lower highs, fairly consistent. So we'll go ahead and see if this right here continues sideways or up. If it does break that, we could be continuing somewhat, we could be breaking this trend somewhat, but we need to establish higher lows first. So higher lows are going to be the next thing we want to look for. Then of course, once we break these higher high pattern, then we can see the breakout to the upside and consider a long position. Once again, wait for confirmation. I don't think we're done yet, but keep in mind here, we are at a 7 here, and we're seeing a lot of larger candlesticks and candle wicks here. So for lack of better terms, there's a good chance we could very well see the price go sideways for some time before it decides to leg up or leg down. Okay, one way or the other, we're going to see some kind of movement. I personally feel we're going to see more downside, just based on everything we see here so far. It seems like more likely we're going to see a further downside. Let's see what the cloud tells us here. Big surprise, we're below the cloud now. Lag and spans free and clear of price action. Conversion lines well below the baseline, giving us that momentum that we have on the 4-hour. The MACD as well, kind of reiterating that, as well as the fact that we're below the cloud. And then we have perfect confirmation to me. I like to see at least 3 or 4 candles either above or below the cloud before I consider a position. So if I were to take a short right now, I'd feel comfortable doing so because we have all these indications. Okay, so again, we're really seeing about 70% probability of further downside, maybe 30% upside. And at this point, I think it's very likely that we're going to see this support level tested and broken in the relative near future. Keep in mind, we got a weekend coming up that's going to kind of throw things off a little bit, but traditional markets between today and tomorrow, I think we should expect a little bit further downside. Again, most of the indicators are just telling us that, right? And is it going to happen? Is it 100% foolproof? No, never is. So that's why you always make sure you are careful with your trades, trade correctly, and work within your own risk tolerance. And make sure that if you don't have a good risk tolerance, start demo trading. Use Bitget's demo trade option. It's very easy to use, and it's really awesome to be able to kind of get that perspective on what's going on and how you respond to markets like these. Because there's nothing worse than losing a bunch of money and figuring out, oh, that's what I should have done. Why not lose $0 and figure it out for yourself and start writing things down to make sure you learn from your mistakes. I've done that for the last 17 years. I can tell you I make a lot less though. I'm not perfect, but hey, it's a very profitable thing. It's my full-time job. So I'm comfortable in that sense to be able to maintain this kind of lifestyle. Again, it works well for me. Find what works well for you. And if you want to find what works well for you better, CryptoCash.tech is a site, okay? I can essentially show you how to become a better trader with some of my private trading videos. Bear in mind too, we're going to be adjusting the price next year as well based on supply and demand. So in that sense, you want to be prepared and maybe lock in your rate. Everyone so far currently that is currently a community member will be grandfathered in. So please bear that in mind. Either way, looking forward to working with you if you are going to be a new member. Thank you so much to my current community members for just being an awesome part of my life. I love you guys and gals. Thank you so much for that. We'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.